Okay, hey, simple passive cash flow. We are going to do a property inspection report, a live one, um, with a coaching client of mine. Got a what's the purchase price on this one right here, and then what's the anticipated rents? So we
So
kind of know.
this one was around 150K. It was up for 150K, but it's been on the market for about a sorry, just give me 1 second. It's been about like in the market for about almost a year.
Okay, and this is Norfolk, Virginia.
So that's closer to Virginia Beach area. Uh,
So this is sort of a primary market then, in a way, or
I would say, yeah, it's one of the primary market, but it's not at a seller's market like Northern Virginia where I live.
yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
but it's primary. It's more of the Navy, like you have a military, and
Yeah.
so yeah, it's definitely one of the interesting markets.
Again, what do you think it rents for? Again?
So I'd say it's for the rent. It's there are two properties in that area. It's not a multifamily. It's basically two built single families, just in one lot. And one of them goes for about 800, and then the other one is a much smaller one. It goes about 600.
Okay.
So total about maybe 1400. And
Okay.
I think that's with the condition that I've seen it in. I think if you fixing, if it's in a great condition, it can definitely can go up more.
Yeah. So what I normally do on these things, I haven't taken a look at this yet, but you want to go to the summary and just kind of see where we are in this thing. Um, and one lens I always look at this stuff is the property inspector. I've never worked with this guy. I'm sure you haven't either. Maybe you've got some referrals, but 99% of the time, these guys are writing up inspection reports for new home buyers, right? Primary residence people, and it may not be. They may be pointing out things that are super unimportant, and it's just gonna, you know, it's gonna make you as the buyer of a rental property ask for things and look stupid in front of the seller and be ridiculous, and you might not get anything if that's the case. So I think it's
Correct.
important to go through here, and once you kind of point out what things you thought were like took really exception to, you thought that you need to get addressed.
Correct. So I want to take basically most of the. I know that could probably cause issues for the tenant. So I wanted most of the like the plumbing issue, the electrical.
Hmm.
Those are the most important things that I emphasized on. The other exterior parts, I mean, those are not as much of a big deal than the basic things that the tenant would always use. Like it would
Yeah,
be the appliances, uh, the laundry, kitchen. Pretty much, I emphasize on those. And there is like few leaks on the roof. I wanted to make sure there's no leak, especially if a storm comes in. It wouldn't be a bigger bill to worry about. So I
right,
wanted to emphasize on that when I talked with the inspector to
right.
focus more on the electrical as well.
Major components, and that's good. I think I always you picked up on that. You always want to have a conversation with an inspector before you send them out there and saying, "Hey, man, I'm not buying this thing to live in, and nor am I expecting this thing to be perfect, but I need you to look out for me for these larger components that you just mentioned."
Correct.
Another thing that I would also point out too as we go through here is we need to sort of address the safety um, portion of it, at least, because in a way we've been tipped off here if there's a safety issue, and it kind of builds a case if something happens that we kind of knew something and we were possibly being negligent about it. Um,
Correct.
so so things like this thing right here, I think this is kind of unneeded, right? I mean, concrete is going to crack.
Yeah.
That's how it happens. Stop wasting my valuable real estate on this. This page is already 55 pages, but this is an example of just, yeah, some newer investment like, oh my god, the foundation, but likely it's just minor cracking, and not all the steps are going to be level.
Correct.
But yeah, one thing you point out was like the roof, right? Was
Yeah, the roof of noted. I mean, you wanted to make sure that there's no leak or it can fall off on the
yeah. Did
tenants or anything. So that's one of the safety issues that I was concerned about. And I did mention if, and also that was one of the things that that I asked to negotiate on if they were to fix those. Those are one of the major things that I asked to fix during the negotiation.
okay. What? How old is this roof?
This basically it's say over 20 plus years, I'd say.
Okay. I mean, normal life on roofs are anywhere from like 20 to 40 years.
Mhm.
Um, did you ask the property inspector overall, what does he think about the roof? Does it need to get replaced or can it just be patched up? Can you comment on that?
Well, the house up front looks like it has a fairly newer, but the one in the back it had the leak.
Okay.
It was a smaller one, so that one definitely needed either to be replaced or patched.
hmm So sometimes you can go back and forth with your inspector and so you put this into Word document. We tried to remove a lot of the guilty party names, but you have it in here. You might want to just change some of the wording and suggest it to the inspector to put it in their final version so that now he gives it to you in that wording. So, like some of the weak wording might be, he doesn't really imply it here. You might want to change the wording or ask him to change the wording to imply that the seller really should get this done. That will really go a long way in the negotiation when you propose it.
Correct.
Sometimes you don't did when you went back to the seller to kind of did your first initial rounds of negotiation, did you provide this report to them or did you code it back?
Yeah, we did. We provided basically what our finding, what the major issues, and we suggested that they would fix the major issues. So
Okay.
some of the roof was definitely part of it. Electric was part of it, and
Because sometimes you can play it both ways. You can cut and paste the important things from here and put it as a list in an email and saying please comment on completing these items or giving us a credit or a reduction in sales price with or without the full report as an appendix.
correct.
It,
The
it
only
depends how you want to play it. But just a couple ideas.
yeah. Yeah, that's what the way we went back, we basically suggested what was on the comments and findings, and we also suggested to lower the price. Either we could take care of it or they do.
Yeah.
Uh,
Did
the
you
only
what
thing
for
they
the
came
roof specifically? So it's one of the structures that you're looking to get replaced. What kind of cost reduction did you request?
so for the whole total thing, total
Or just
basic,
for that one line item? Or did you do it for the total of,
I
roof
I
and all?
pretty much did the whole total because I basically offered lower than what their sales price, about 20 grand less than what they are offering it for, and then having to do the inspection, I've lowered it even 10 grand less. So just to make sure that the seller, at least comes back versus, not replying at all.
What was the
To make
total? What was the purchase price again? The contract price?
it was 150, and I offered 130. So they accepted
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
They
okay.
came back with 130, and then that was prior to doing the inspection. Then once we found the inspection, we've lowered it a little bit, and then asked to fix the major things because
Yeah.
we don't
How
know the
much did you ask for them to lower it after the 130?
about 121.
Okay, so $8,000 is what you figure should replace all this roofs and all these other issues.
Correct.
Okay. Did you? So again, so many ways to play the negotiation. One way would be to list out all these issues and then assign a approximate repair cost to it. So you can see there's some validity to asking to $8,000 as opposed to it looks like he just pulled it from the sky.
Correct.
Um, because sometimes these sellers, I mean, if I'm putting myself in their shoes, if you just ask for $8,000 and you don't really give any explanation, it's like, well, you're just being ridiculous. But if you spell out which ones you're requesting amongst many other issues that you're letting go, and you put assigned prices, at least you can start to have a discussion or conversation on each individual things. Because I guess what you don't want is to offend the seller right away,
Correct.
because you don't know if they have another guy waiting at 140.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with that. We did actually put in the comments on each of our findings, like we're
Mm-hmm.
seeing. Basically, we put in each line. We made the major things: the roof, the electric. I think the window was broken,
Mm-hmm.
and I think there was a leak or the plumbing, I believe.
Yeah, I
One
like
of the
I like how
issues.
you did. You put in things like this, very prescriptive.
Mhm.
Because some of these inspectors will be very vague.
Mhm. So we basically lined up what most of the comments had, and then we just suggested that. And they also, since I'm doing it at financing, is going to be they require that the termite and moisture be taken care of.
And sometimes when you're doing financing, the lender will likely require you to get all this stuff completed. Like if you
Correct.
sign a few $100s to the door, they're gonna want the scope of work to be completed and verified
Mhm.
too. So things like the interior doors, like this one, for example, you put it on your list, your hit list.
Mhm. Correct. But this was not a. I don't think we include.
All right. So anything else on here that you're kind of unsure about, or you want to
So the
huddle?
major thing, basically, okay. So we got the not the flooring. It was the plumbing, the pipes. Basically, they said they had leaks. So the plumbing issue, there's partially cover leaks. So this may be hidden. That's what some of the concern. My major concern from all of them is basically I wanted to get a rental. I didn't want to get a I didn't want to turn this into more of an upper fixer upper. And then the
Yeah.
goal is to have it cash flow from the first month getting it, not having to fix it and then put it out for rent.
Right. The water heater, for example, do you know how old it was?
This is probably about 12 years, probably more.
Yeah. I mean, that one would have. I might put that on the request list, the punch list to get a new water heater and ask for like $500 for that.
Mhm.
You might not get a new water heater, but you can get. I mean, that's like it's a direct compensation for that component that's already owed.
Mhm. Just life experience.
I like the inspector to put the actual life,
Mhm.
how old it is.
Just messaging. Yeah, so the wiring is this is where the major issues found. This is also is what we've listed. It's
Okay.
basically the
What
electrical panel.
was it? Just an old panel or different
Yeah,
wiring?
it's an old panel and it was not wired correctly, and that could be a major issue for for the tenants basically.
Yeah. Say anything safety wise, other than concrete panels on the outside. That's a pedestrian path. Those are ticky tacky, but yeah, electrical stuff is very important. Do you know how expensive it would be to remediate that?
Still this is what I'm trying to decide.
Did the
I think
what did the inspector say when you asked?
I have yet to hear back, so I'll hear back most likely tomorrow. I've asked basically to give me the whole estimate of what the major cost is going to be for all the important ones that we lined up,
Yeah.
electrical, water, and then based on that, that gives me the go or no go.
Yeah, keep on them because sometimes these inspectors, the reports have a million and one exclusions anyway, right?
Correct.
And
I
they don't.
found out the hard way with them.
Yeah, and they never want to give you like an answer like, well, how much does that cost? And they'll say like, well, because we're not contractors. I'm like, dude, man, like, what do you do? Like, what's your purpose? Like, I mean, come on, you're in this industry, you should kind of know.
At least give it like a decent price or a
Yeah,
budget that we can
get me within like
make it
thirty
work.
percent. That's all I care.
Correct.
So yeah, I mean, that can be expensive. So
From your opinion, how much? I mean, you've had if you I think you had your share as well. Remember?
I mean, whenever it's electrical, it can be like all over the place. And like, I mean, if it's less than $1,000, I'd be surprised. I mean, it can be pretty expensive.
Is it? I would say
Yeah,
5K or
it
less.
might. Yeah, I mean, I think it's less, but it might be more.
Okay.
You know, I mean, it's got to be done, and
Correct. That's one of the important factors.
yeah, and a lot of the stuff like you won't be able to get the Fannie Mae lending if it's not.
Correct. I mean, this property was listed as is, so it's more of an opportunity for what
Yeah,
we
and
have than is
and
a
basically
requirement.
you're just kind of testing them, right? Like you said, it was a year vacant, and you're just kind of testing them.
Correct.
I mean,
That's
yeah, I
one of
guess normally what I would say, like if this is a typical property that was on the market for like a couple weeks or a month, maybe you don't be as aggressive
mhm.
because nobody likes that guy who is just the reach. They call it retrading. Like, you settled at 130 and then now you come back and you lower the price another 10 or 20 grand. It's like, come on, man.
Correct.
But here it's been sitting on the market, and do they want to go for another 3 months? I mean, it's already what, November.
Correct. It's been over a year
Yeah,
in
and
and out.
that's another thing that you might want to think about too. It's hard to find a tenant to get in here in December, which it looks like you're going to be.
Correct. So
So,
that's what I was thinking about, whether to keep because one of the things is they're leasing month to month, which is not what I wanted. I wanted
oh,
at
there's a
least
there's a tenant in here already.
yeah, there's a month to month,
Oh,
every
okay.
monthly. So one of the things they mentioned is they will just pass over the lease, but since it's month to month, that's not. I wouldn't like that option because you wouldn't be guaranteed you'd have some vacancy.
What I would do is, unless they're really good tenants and you can screen them again,
Mhm.
I would try and get your own tenant. And if you can bump the rents on this thing, and get a new tenant in there starting in the summertime, and then get that 1 year cycle primed.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting. Well, maybe modify the place a little bit, make it more appealing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, definitely. That's an idea. Just
Any other concerns you got with this report?
well, I'm just right now doing the budgeting of like how much would it be? Because the main purpose of this, I like that the land. This was basically around the land, like the land is basically all around it. All the neighborhood are basically multifamily houses,
Mm-hmm.
and this is just land sitting with two houses. So I thought about it future wise that maybe if the zoning is correct, same zoning, um, maybe. rebuild it into a multifamily. That's futuristic wise. Um,
Yeah.
I figured it's a good opportunity for that cost. But now that I'm assessing the whole
I mean,
fixing just to get it by,
yeah, there's a reason why it's on the market for that much, and a reason why it's been sitting there for a year.
correct. So I want to make sure they're not just trying to sell it to me.
Yeah, I mean, initially when I first opened this file up, I was and hearing you talk about like, we want this fix, that fix. I was like, oh boy, you're gonna ruffle some feathers with that. But now that I'm kind of going through it, and I'm remembering that you're saying it's been on the market a year. Maybe you stick to your guns. If it's not, if it's too much repairs and they're not willing to do it, then walk.
Yeah, that's gonna be the next option.
Yeah, because you paid what, $600 on an inspection.
Yeah, about 600 for inspection and put in a deposit. So yeah, basically about 600, right?
Yeah, I mean, you should get your deposit back, but sometimes you just have to walk from these kind of properties.
Correct. I mean, 600 is probably much less of an issue than trying to fix something major.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that HVAC that I looked at is built 2000 or installed 2007.
Mhm.
I mean, that thing's gonna go at any point, and there goes your 600, then some. Uh, but yeah, any other questions on this thing?
This was basically one of the things that I was basically looking into. I mean, as of now, this is what I'm working on. Um, I'm also trying to line up whether to get the funding from my 401k or just use whatever savings I got left. So that's what I was thinking. That you because I remember you mentioned the 401k. That's a question I had a while back for you. Um,
Yeah, I mean,
that's
how much liquidity do you have, non-retirement money? Do you have just kind of ready to go?
I can borrow, or you mean borrowing or just withdrawing completely?
Just with, well,
Well, withdrawing with, I guess, I'm not sure what would be the after
non
tax,
non
but
401k money. How much do you have?
to not 401k about 20. I have about
Okay,
20k.
and then how much 401k stuff do you have?
So I can borrow up to 40k. Um, Withdrawing would be about 25,
Yeah,
but that would be with a penalty. But then I wouldn't have to pay back on a out
yeah.
of pocket.
I mean, the down payment on this one's gonna be what, like 25 or something like that.
Yeah, it's about 25.
Yeah, I would for now. What I would do is take the most loans that you can, but then I don't know how your policy is set up, but most of those you only are allowed two loans, right?
Correct. It allows you up to two loans.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So maybe you use 20 grand of your liquidity plus take a little loan, like a $10,000 loan from your 401k,
Mhm.
and then the next deal, take the second larger loan from your 401k, or just take the whole thing out.
Correct. So it's better to leverage what I have. It's better to take the lending versus
Yeah, because you're gonna want a little bit of a capital reserve in case things break the first year. Um, but I'm thinking you can just take it from your 401k, or take out from your 401k at that point. Until you're forced to play that hand, I would say don't do it yet, even though I'm against the whole 401k. And
yeah.
yeah, but use your
Correct.
liquidity first.
Yeah, I was planning to actually use like just withdraw it in January, early this year, just to withdraw it, not withdraw it, borrow from it. That way the time would start, and I just keep it, just in case. But it didn't make sense in case if I needed
Yeah,
different
I mean,
amount.
your in case money can be the 401k in this circumstance.
Okay,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
unless the whole stock market crashes, which could
Yeah, that's
happen.
another. Another concern. That was also another concern whether to
Well,
wait,
like, look,
wait
I
for a
mean,
recession.
if you ask me, like, maybe you take the money out of the 401k right now, if that's the way you feel.
Yeah.
'cause then now you're asking, well, which of these, the liquidity in the bank account making 0%, or the money in my 401k, which one is not really the 401k is technically probably going to make more money right now, but it could also lose.
You could lose it, right?
Maybe if you want to play it safe, you take it out of the 401k right now,
Mhm.
put into this stuff. But
Yeah, that's what I was
you got to
thinking.
put the money in. You got to buy assets, right? That's the only way you're going to get out of the situation.
Exactly. Exactly. I was thinking, I mean, wouldn't it be better? Because I was looking at the property, what it was worth when the person bought it,
Mm-hmm.
the seller bought it in 2011. That's not that far off. He bought it for about 40 grand.
Mm-hmm.
So that he definitely made more money appreciation on this one. Um,
Yeah, so maybe test him out. Maybe he just wants out, and he's got equity in here. He has some money to give up. So I would say that's another reason to ask for things. You can only say no, but make sure you itemize it.
correct.
You know, so he can
Yeah,
like
I
scratch out
definitely.
certain things, and then you can argue certain items. But the safety things, the leaks, those things, I think he's got to kind of do.
Correct.
Not wait another 6 months, buddy, to sell their property. See you next year.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I was thinking, if in case, I mean, in case of, I'd say, recession and stuff, wouldn't that, you think it would impact the housing as well? It wouldn't be, so I mean, it's right now the ball is in my court. There's not
Hmm.
many offers if it's been on the market for that long.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, what I normally do on these is like you put all the things that you want on a spreadsheet, and you get your inspector, or you get somebody who knows construction to just do some rough number estimates on it and just add it up, and then cut and paste that list onto the response letter, and you may or may not include those pricing.
Correct. That's what I was thinking. Mm.
Uh, But what I would do, it's a kind of a team thing here. Float. Sometimes it's good to float it to your real estate agent first,
Mhm.
so he can float it to the other real estate agent.
Correct. So basically, yeah, I'll wait. I'll wait to hear back from him.
Yeah,
Did
get
he?
your inspectors estimates, and work on your estimates first, and then think you're almost there.
Yeah, definitely. Since I still have time.
Yeah, because sometimes what
Digit.
the seller might do is like, all right, I think all these things are valid. However, I'm gonna want to get my person to fix it for half the cost.
Mhm.
You know, likely they're getting undocumented workers or whatnot. I don't know. But you're gonna have to ask yourself the question: do you want your people to do it,
Mhm.
and that way you can ensure that they do it the right way, or do you want them to do it and they get it all done? I guess, as opposed to getting half the money or half the amount of stuff done. That
Yeah,
this is
definitely.
where
It's
this is
different.
yeah. I mean, this is where things kind of get a little complicated.
I mean, I'm gonna wait for the estimate if it's something that is doable. Because right now I'm looking at it in a conservative now. I'm looking at it. Okay, this is gonna be a fixer upper. I'm gonna have to spend, I don't know, about 20, 30 grand. That's how I'm looking at it. But it might not be. It might be the estimate is like, hey, just 5 grand or less. Then we can probably work on that one.
Right. Right.
So it's just waiting. It's a numbers game on this one.
Yeah. What if they said, "Hey, I'm going to fix half of these items, or I'll give you the reduction for half of these items, or I'll fix all of them, but it's my guy who's doing them." You don't have to answer that now, but that could potentially come up.
I would rather have somebody that I can trust, and because I want to work with them in the future. That way they
Mhm.
can, if there's any repairs, anything needed, if the tenant just, if I end up with a bad tenant, at least I would have somebody that I know would be able to go fix. That's one way. I mean, the other. The other, if they take care of it, I mean, that takes the liability away. Well, not the liability. It takes, burden for in the beginning.
Yeah,
But I'm looking at it from a long term.
yeah.
At it
And
to
if they do it, you can't verify the quality too. It's difficult. I mean, you
exactly.
could, but you got to spend another $500 to get another guy. Well, typically these inspectors, something you might want to ask too of the inspectors is, get a quote from him if to just do a reinspection. You already paid $600. It might just cost $200 for him to go in and spot check certain things. He might even do
Okay.
it for free. Just gotta
Is that
ask.
after the fix or
Yeah, after the fix.
okay?
If it's simple things like doors, um, or yeah, doors, you might
No,
want to just ask your realtor to do that.
yeah,
I was trying
doors
to
are
think
not
of
even.
something else they could inspect, but those guys can't really do much.
Yeah, the doors are not. Doors were not an issue at all.
Yeah, yeah,
Actually, the front door doesn't open. Like, remember
yeah.
when we
Mr.
got
Realtor, can you figure out if that door works? You can do that,
yeah,
right? All right,
yeah,
good
doors
job.
were there. Just the window. I remember the window was broken. The back. Uh,
Yeah.
and you others. I mean, I picked this property because it's like small property, and that was one of the cases. Okay, I would start off, but at least my maintenance cost. That's what I was concerned about.
Hmm.
It could. I mean, you can wipe out your profit just by having that maintenance cost.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I look at it from a perspective of like, all right, I want to be the first 2 to 3 years maintenance free. Things unforeseen can happen, of course, but I really want to try my best that I don't have any repairs for the first few years.
Correct.
But you're not gonna create a property that's going to be maintenance free for 5 to 10. That's impractical. I think, and that's asking too much.
Yeah, I think. I mean, the best way is what to keep it about 2 to 5 years.
Yeah, yeah. And as you go down the list and you really start to negotiate with that seller, I think that's the mindset you need to communicate. It's like, hey man, like I'm just making sure things aren't going to break the next few years. You know,
Okay.
I'm not asking for the world here.
It's 2 to 6 years, 2 to 5 years max.
Yeah,
Thing for all right. Makes a lot of sense.
yeah. Cool. Is there anything else on this report?
No, from this report, I think we should be okay.
Okay.
We went over the major things.